Today, I want to talk to you about the impact of artificial intelligence on the TV business. A few weeks ago, I was invited to make this presentation to a small group of people, and some of the people that were in that group are very concerned about national security. When I say national security and television, you might wonder, what's the connection? Well, that's what this talk is all about, and I'm going to get into that. What I want to do without further ado is jump right in. But just by way of introduction, just some context. I've been focused on cinematic AI, the application of artificial intelligence to the television and filmmaking process. I've been focused on that for a number of years. In the last 2 years, I was the COO and co-founder of a company that's building a tool suite that's optimized for that particular task. So I have some experience about what's about to happen and how it's going to change storytelling in the future, particularly cinematic storytelling. And so with that in mind, let me take you through this presentation. The AI revolution will be televised, and it's coming to television set near you, and I think it's going to happen very soon. I think this is happening right now as we speak in 2026. We're going to start to see artificial intelligence integrated into every aspect of film and television production. 25 years ago, I led the team at a company called Packet Video, which was the first company in the world to launch streaming video on mobile devices. And in the process, I learned something that's going to be very important for this story. I learned something about how television and filmmaking and how we consume it, it can transform in a relatively rapid period of time thanks to new breakthroughs in technology. And now, at the time, when I was at Packet Video, I had previously been the head of digital media for Sony Pictures, one of the big movie studios here in town. And when I left that to go into mobile, my friends in the TV business thought I was crazy. They really did. They said, wait, you can't stream video to a phone. And I understood their point because if you look at the phones, these phones on the screen, these are the most state-of-the-art phones at the time. Like these were really sophisticated phones at the time. I know today they look like antiques. They look like artifacts from a bygone era, perhaps. But back in the day, these were the most sophisticated phones. And as you can see, they're thoroughly inadequate as a device to consume entertainment or media on. However, I knew something that the TV folks didn't know. Most of the investors in Packet Video were major semiconductor manufacturers. These are the companies that build the chips that make your smartphone work. And they very much wanted video to be a part of the next generation. And so I had some insight into this, what they call the silicon roadmaps, the product roadmaps for the semiconductor companies. And I knew that in a matter of time, just a few years, most people would have a smartphone in their hands. And sure enough, here we are a couple decades later. Today, most people who watch television have a smartphone with them, either in their hand or in their pocket or very near to hand while they're watching television. This is not a big secret. This is well understood. Just a couple weeks ago, Matt Damon made a joke about it. He said, people are watching TikTok on their phones while they're streaming Netflix on television. And so this is well understood as a problem. It's kind of distracting people from TV. It's making TV the second screen and so forth. But the big beneficiary in all this actually isn't TikTok or Netflix, it's YouTube. YouTube has been the biggest winner in the streaming sweepstakes. And that's because YouTube is growing so fast. Now, folks in the TV industry, my colleagues in the television industry, they look at YouTube as something lesser, something that's not quite as great as television, something less than, right? It's an inferior product. But I think they should look closer, and I think they should pay closer attention because actually today, YouTube is by far the number one streaming app in the world. It has surpassed broadcast and cable TV by many measures, by audience size, by revenue generated, by time spent, and so forth. And today, in every nation in the world, YouTube is the number one streaming video app. And that's on every device, including that smart TV in your living room. YouTube's not just limited to, say, smartphones and tablets and so forth. It's actually something people are watching in their living room and enjoying just like they watch television. So the difference between YouTube and television is gradually being erased. But that's not all. YouTube's got a secret weapon. This is their great advantage. YouTube learned how to tap those billions of smartphones that are out there and to get people to upload video for free. So they have a free source of content in just a minute of every day. 600 hours of video is uploaded from viewers. And that means in a single afternoon, YouTube gets more video uploaded from its users than all TV companies and all broadcast networks and all streaming platforms and movie studios produce in a given year. They get more content uploaded in an afternoon than the output of all of professional media in a year. So those are big changes in the TV business, and they unfolded over the past 25 years. And those were mostly changes that occurred in the part of TV that we call distribution. What's going to happen next with artificial intelligence is that we're going to digitize creation. And as you can see from these images on the screen right now, it's going to be very strange because the quality of the images from generative AI has gotten very good very, very rapidly. If your impression of generative AI for video is from 2024 or early 2025, your thoughts are a little bit out of date. Your impressions might be out of date because the technology is improving so fast. It improves on a weekly basis. And in any given month, you can see visual improvement to the quality of generative AI video. And as you can see from these examples, we're going to have some very strange emerging kinds of media very, very soon. I believe that generative AI for video creation is inevitable. Now, obviously, as you can see from this picture, there are a lot of people, professionals in the motion picture business, who disagree with me. They don't want that to happen. They're opposed to it because they think it's going to displace professional people. But I know something they don't know. I have inside information. And once again, it has to do with semiconductors. It has to do with the chips. The next two generations of GPU, graphical processing units, that make generative AI work, they're going to be 2 or 3 times more energy efficient. And that means that the cost of compute is going to drop. And with generative AI, the cost of creating video goes in line with the cost of compute. So if the cost of compute comes down, then it's going to get cheaper to make video. And we can see clearly that the cost of compute is going to drop by a factor of some 40% or 60% a year. And it might even be faster than that. The cost might drop even faster than that. So if we compare that to traditional filmmaking, the way movies are made today, well, a 90-minute movie costs about $100 million on average. Of course, you can make a movie that's more expensive, and sometimes you can make a movie that's cheaper, but on average, it costs about $1 million a minute to make a feature film. Now, if you think of a show on Netflix, one of their premier flagship shows on Netflix or frankly any streaming platform, the costs there are about $20 million an episode at the high end. And that translates to about $300,000 per minute for a streaming series. Well, at my company, Neura Studios, last year, we reached the threshold of producing television grade video with AI for less than $1,000 a minute. And by the end of this year, that cost will drop to below $300 a minute. And by next year, it'll be under $100 a minute. So if you compare that to film, that's 4 or 5 orders of magnitude in a matter of years of progress and cost to start dropping. What that means is we're going to totally transform the way television works and the kinds of stories that we tell. I believe TV is going to become hyper local and hyper global. Now, let me unpack that. Let me explain what I mean by that. Today, in the United States, there are just about 500 scripted series in production. A scripted series is either a comedy or a drama with a cast of actors. These are the most expensive and most complicated TV shows to produce. A couple of years ago, that figure was about 600 shows in production, but it's dropped since then. So we've passed peak TV, and now it's a little bit lower than 500, 493 shows. But given the math I just showed you, as the cost per minute of generative AI drops, I think we're going to see an explosion of scripted content. I think we're going to see it increase by a factor of 100x or maybe even 1,000x as more and more people, millions of people, begin to tell stories. But here's the thing. Not all those stories are going to be made in America. Because with generative AI, anyone anywhere can use AI to make any show with any cast, speaking any language. And those are people who could be of any race or gender. And that means that a teenager in Mumbai or Lagos or any other place can generate a TV show starring characters that look like Americans, that drive cars that look like American cars, that speak and talk and look like American characters. So that can be done anywhere in the world. Now, that's a problem for Hollywood in a whole bunch of ways because it means that they're going to be competing with a flood of content that's coming at them from all corners of the globe. But I believe it also represents a national security threat. And the reason I believe that is because most of what modern society is defined by is ideas, either inventions or abstractions or philosophies. These are byproducts of the human imagination. It's really defined more by those abstract concepts than by natural laws or observable facts. That might strike you as silly, but consider this. Think of the imaginary constructs that we deal with every single day. The US dollar. It's just a piece of paper. It's an imaginary construct that the dollar has value. It's a story that we believe in. Things like credit ratings or US Congress, the rule of law, the US Constitution, the national borders. There's no border drawn between the United States and Canada or the United States and Mexico. That's a fictional construct. The same thing is true of concepts of citizenship and voting rights and all of our other rights. Even U.S. history is a fictional construct. It's an imaginary construct. What glues it all together is storytelling. Storytelling is what makes these concepts meaningful and credible to hundreds of millions of people. You would not have national societies without national narratives. And national mythology is really important for cohesion and a national identity. And in this regard, television has played an important role in nation building. Ever since the advent of TV in the 1950s, it's done a brilliant job of reinforcing these national ideas, these norms of civilized behavior. And you could say that watching television is a lifelong process of indoctrination into consumer society. It teaches us the mores and the norms of a consumer society. And when people fall outside of that, well, that's where the drama and the excitement or the comedy occurs in a scripted show. Now, the fact that we perceive television as entertainment and not as indoctrination, well, that's just proof of how effective it is as a mechanism for getting a message across. And very soon, anyone will be able to make cinematic narratives that look and feel just like television shows produced in Hollywood. And when that happens, some people, some percentage of those people, will turn it into a weapon. And when that occurs, the battleground will be inside your mind. It won't be detectable to other people. Any adversary of the United States or any nation will be able to create counter narratives. It's already true that social media is a great way to distribute disinformation. That's well understood. That's well established. It's also clear that people can make deep fakes and phony documentaries, but now with generative AI, that is going to become trivially easy to do. What happens next? Oh, I imagine we'll have historical revisionism, and it'll be a form of radicalization as entertainment delivered through addictive narrative loops that get people engaged in this information where they really truly believe it. It becomes part of their identity. And remember, the goal here is not persuasion. The goal isn't to convince you of anything. The goal is to divide people and pit them together, to undermine consensus, to foster a sense of doubt and cynicism about the narratives that hold us together. The myths that define a nation and hold it together can be dismantled. And that is why I think generative AI presents a national security issue. I expect a tsunami of generative AI video to hit the United States by 2030 and probably a couple of years before that. So this is coming very, very soon to a screen near you. I'm Rob Tercek, and thanks for checking out my video.